You're listening to Mondays Unfiltered, the podcast for anyone who's accepted that work is inevitably work. We're your hosts, Heather and Kristen. We break down burnout, baffling policies, and corporate chaos with dry humor and real solutions. Grab your coffee and whatever optimism survived the weekend, Mondays have begun. A little about us. Chris spent decades helping executives shape brands and craft messages that inspire, and I built systems that actually made those visions work behind the scenes and kept people from falling apart in the process. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Heather.
Hey, Kristen.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I am good.
Well, that's good because we're talking about bad today.
We are. We're talking about bad leadership. So we talked about leadership in general. Do you want me to start with a couple of quotes that I found?
Please. Yeah, let's go there.
Okay. Let me get into that. My handy dandy spreadsheet. So I had two I pulled. You can tell
Okay.
me which ones you thought was good. I found two movies or two, one's a show, one's a movie. So the first one is remember, there are no bad crews, only bad leaders. And that's a quote from the Master Chief Sergeant in G.I. Jane.
I love that
Number
movie.
one.
Oh my God, I love that
I
movie.
haven't seen it in years.
Oh my God, that is a hype movie for me. Like when I watch that, I'm like, let's go.
Oh, I only think I've seen it once. Now I'm gonna have to go back and see it.
Oh, I love it.
And this is a quote from Michael Scott from the show The Office.
I'm laughing
And
already because it's going to be funny.
because he said, I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea of what to do. So I think I'm going to give Michael Scott a little bit of points on that one because at least he's admitting he doesn't know what to do.
True, true.
And to me,
That's a
it's
good
not,
leader.
that's a good leader. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not a bad leader if they're admitting that they don't know what to do. So found some good stuff, and I use Forbes a lot, but Forbes cited a LinkedIn study that said 7 out of 10 employees leave because of a bad boss. 7 out of 10, 70% of a bad boss. And toxic leadership turnover cost firms $223 billion between 2014 and 2019. Toxic work leads to anxiety, poor sleep, poor performance, high blood pressure, premature aging. I will also say that I have some coaching clients that come to me, for communications or whatever, but inevitably we are dealing with anxiety, poor sleep, stress.
hmm
So we're dealing with a lot of those issues first, in addition to improving communication and whatever other stuff we're working on. So I've said it. You want to take that off that
Yeah, two
take the
things came to
subject
mind.
off?
One was there's so many companies that in my career I left because I was not getting a great experience, i.e. leadership. And I didn't leave because of the work, because I went to the next company and did the same work. So it was, but between 14 and 19, where your stat was, I was at the same company. So I had the same leader in that company, which was good. Um, but then something else came to mind was I actually went to the ER once because I thought I was having a heart attack because I was stressing that whole day over a scenario at work. I went to the ER and it was an anxiety attack.
I That happened to me too once.
I've
I
gone
thought I was having
twice,
heart
but one
palpitations.
was
It was
because of work.
anxiety.
Yeah, I was like, this is stupid.
Oh,
If I'm that stressed because of work, obviously I quit after that experience because I was
it
like,
makes
nothing
you.
is worth that extreme scenario. No.
Well, there are some intentionally cruel people that kind of get off on making people uncomfortable or
It makes me think of
feel
the Mean
less.
Girls. Did you ever watch Mean Girls?
I
So there
mm-mm.
was always this like running joke in the office of who the Mean Girls were, and it was, we wear pink on Wednesdays, so sometimes people would wear pink to the office.
No. Oh my gosh, I heard of a really toxic situation. Um, so there's so many kinds of bad leadership. Um, it's the first one is the egotistical, hey, I'm more important than anybody, and I don't care what you say. Oh my gosh, one of my first bosses, I was really young. Um, he would stay in his office with the door closed all the time and be like that guy. What's his
Lindbergh,
Limburg,
Lumberg, Lumberg.
Lumberg. So he would come out, and if he needed to get prepped, so he was the VP of the office I was in, or the function I was doing at this company, and he would come out, and I don't know what he did all day, to be honest with you, because he never seemed to know what we did. Like,
Mm,
not our individual work,
mm.
like what our mission was, what we did, what it. So he would come
Like the
out.
company?
Yes,
Like
no,
what service they provide?
like our department and what the processes
Oh,
were
okay.
and
Okay.
what we were doing. And it was kind of a sales function, not a function, customer success, I guess. He would come out and lean on your cube. And back then we were working in cubes.
And that's Lumberg.
Yes. And he'd go, now tell me, Chris, how do we do that again? And what's the process? Or what do we do? And that he was getting ready to talk to home office, which was in a different state. And when I saw Lumberg, in The Office, which I love that movie, and he does that over the cube, I was like, that's my old boss. Except for he didn't go, well, I need you to stay over the weekend to do your TPS reports. But that was bad leadership because he didn't really even care to come out except for when he needed something.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
definitely. I've had my share of experiences of challenging leadership. I think the most evil ones that I've experienced were being yelled at, being yelled to. Like there was one place I worked, I was sitting in my desk was in front of the owner's office, but his office was really long. So his desk was way at the back. And I would sit in like the middle of the office. I was the center square. And he would shout my name, Heather. I was like, are you kidding me? And then it became a running joke, which is that's terrible leadership. You just taught people that it's okay to like scream my name for support. And then somebody there's two people that come to mind that were partners in the company that hung up on me. And I was like, what in the world? And it's just abuse, it's bullies. And one time I went to our leader and I said, like the managing partner of the office, I was like, this is the experience that I just have, and it is, I'm, I don't know what to do about it. And he said, oh, that's just how he is. And I was like, that's not okay.
no. And you don't have to, you don't have to be woke, or I don't know what the word is, to know that that's not okay. You're not gonna win friends or influence people or build a team that way. You're just not gonna do it. That's
Mhm.
bad behavior. I've worked with a ton of egotistical, hey, I'm managing up, I just care about my own career. I don't care about what's going on. And they like that guy, he didn't know what was really going on. He didn't even know what we did, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. But I've had a lot of that. And I think some people think, hey, I've ascended to this position. And so now I can tell people what to do.
Right, right.
And another um, dysfunction or symptom of bad leadership to me is not listening to your
Mhm.
team. Like, you've
Mhm.
hired these people, not seeking feedback, or being so um, egotistically sensitive that you can't take a question or feedback. Have you ever
Mhm.
been in a situation
Yeah,
like
because
that?
the person that hung up on me is because they were asking me to do something that I was not comfortable with doing. It was an ethical situation. And they were
Um,
like, I don't care. Like it was not a good situation and finally just hung up on me. And I was like, what in the world? But what what came to mind when we were talking about that was bad leadership, not only in the person, but in the entity, the company. So
oh,
the leadership sets the tone And is the system bad that allows for bad leadership, that bad behavior that you mentioned, not only the person giving the bad leadership, whether they're not being direct, not expressing, or over expressing. There's so many scenarios to come up with from a bad situation. But again, not just the person, but the system that allows it.
It was funny because years ago, when I was still doing media strategy and selling digital media, I got recruited by a company, and back then it was a marquee media company, but everybody knew in the industry that it was toxic from the top down.
Mm,
And, the people that went to work there went there for the marquee
mm,
brands that it
mhm,
had
mhm, mhm.
and working there. And I think I didn't need the job. I was already working, but it was somebody had reached out to me and I was like, there's no way I'm going into that toxic
Mm,
situation. And I don't care that the brands are, stellar or whatever the heck they are. They have this cachet to them. I didn't care. So I just am not going to go put myself into a toxic situation. I didn't need to.
right.
But there are some people that didn't care. Like they wanted to say that
Yeah.
they were working for that particular brand. And it makes me wonder how does an organization get systemic dysfunction?
Hmm. Well, two places that I worked at that were family owned, that were small. I'm talking less than 100. The one was less than 100, and the other one was way less. And they were
Hmm.
the most emotionally toxic places that I worked. A lot of
Oh, because it's
crying,
family.
a lot
A
of
lot of
crying for
crying?
me. Like I just
Oh,
was
you were crying.
so I'm a sensitive person. And so when I have like that bruised ego or anything like that, it really affects me. And I take a
Yeah.
lot of things personally. And that was a real challenge in my career is I just want to do a great job. And if I'm getting bad feedback or not getting, the support that I'm thinking that I need to progress, it becomes an emotional response for me. And at these two places, I was a puddle. It was terrible.
Oh. Well, you left and you found another job.
Yeah, yeah, I found other places, but I don't, those are things that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't do them. I wouldn't want them removed from my experience. Like people are like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to do it again, but I did learn a lot of things in those spaces, what I wanted to do, what I not want, what I didn't want to do, and how to treat people properly. So I did learn things from them, but they were toxic.
Yeah. I've heard of situations. So we're talking about there's bad leadership where they don't make decisions, they don't listen to people. Um, they're just more concerned with their own career rather than the productivity of the company. Again, that's a Patrick Lencioni thing that he talks about. Um, but there's also that, like you're talking about, is the out and out toxic. I
Yeah,
mean, the
bullying.
bullying.
And even
Yeah.
protecting people
Yes.
against the right. Like it's the right thing to do, but they're going to protect somebody and cause a challenge in the process because of another ego situation.
I totally agree with that. And I'd love to hear stories from our audience because we certainly can. This is
Did
not the
anybody
one
ever
in,
overcome one of those situations?
yeah, if you've ever overcome one of those. I mean, I worked at another media company and I'm not going to name it at all, bad leadership from top down.
Mm,
And I wasn't there very long. In
mm,
fact, the boss that came in, I had already started there. He came in, he told me because there was a lot of toxicity going on. And he said, either I'm going to be here for 10 years or, we're going to see how this plays out and I won't stay past, my year. And he left because the toxicity and the dysfunction was so endemic in this company that there was no fixing it. He left and then I left not shortly after that. But um bad leadership again is also not making decisions, not standing by your team,
right.
not.
Well, and not making change, knowing something that is bad and
Mhm.
not and choosing to let it be. choosing it to let it be like that. Like for instance, I would be in an interview with somebody knowing full well that it's an ugly situation that you're being brought into, or, and you're like, come on, fill this desk because we need the desk filled, but it's a person for the team and maybe they're a good person, they're a good fit for the role, but knowing on this side of the fence, and that makes me think of a joke that I heard once that was, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence because it's fertilized with bullshit. I think of that often.
I
But
love
if
that.
you're
Oh
hiring
my
people
God.
to come in and you know that it's a crummy situation, and then it's like you tiptoe around it until they get comfortable, and then you let them see. It's like almost dating. Like, look at how pretty I am, and then you're like, oh, I show up in sweats one day, and that's the real personality of the organization or of the leader.
Right. That's so endemic. And I think you can have situations where it's a good company and you're just in a bad line. I mean,
Hmm.
I was talking with a colleague once and they were talking about um, a really bad situation with a very toxic leader. And um, talk about people crying or crying all the time. This person was definitely managing up, not being clear about objectives, not listening to her team, all this kind of stuff. And it took them, and I don't know how they finally got, I don't know how finally the company, because you have to go through the whole process, the HR process to report and
Hmm.
investigate and blah, blah, blah. It
Right.
took them 3 years.
Holy mackerel.
3 years. And at first, there was no way possible to um, express this. People try to deal with it. And I think that just popped into my head. People will try to deal with it and make the
Yeah,
best out of things for a
right.
long, long
Well, and
time.
that's what I was talking about, like that falsehood when you're hiring somebody. You're here because you're in a job and you need the desk filled and you're going to bring someone else in, and we just suck it up. We just do it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. It's something I work with some of my coaching clients on. It's about fear.
Mm,
And it's getting over that fear and having courage
hmm.
to work through situations. And in this case, um, I was working with this person a little bit who was experiencing this, and we really had to work on a strategy because she loved her job, loved the company,
Hmm.
and we had to work on a strategy about how do you communicate through this, and
Hmm.
how do you know
There is
in,
technique.
there is a technique, and how do you insulate? And I think what you talked last thing you talked about the disc thing, which not everybody like when those things make me because I'm ADD, make me like, okay, who am I talking to? I just kind of use my own intuition, but that's sort of
Yeah,
what's built into me. Not everybody has that.
right.
Um, but we spend a lot of time, how do you navigate around that? And you spend a lot of energy doing it.
Hmm.
But if you value your job and your colleagues
Right,
and a lot of the people there, it's not like necessarily like you're going to want to leave it just
right.
because just because the leadership's bad. Um, and in this case, that person was egregiously bad, like she was bullying people. And but it took a while for it to bubble up to the powers that be to take appropriate action and investigate and you know I hate
Yeah,
to say get rid of them, but whatever they did to
move them out.
move them out. Or the worst is when they manage them someplace else and somebody else has to deal with them.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'd
yeah.
love to hear from people like how you've navigated this and
And these are opportunities where you can be a good leader without a title. When you recognize these bad situations, how can you lead other people to balance the negative experience of an individual and help people? Like, you can be a mentor, you can be a coach within the organization, you can be a voice of your team and find opportunities to share goals and developments for growth and try to not necessarily try to get rid of somebody or to fire somebody, but even there was a situation of one place that I worked at where we communicated a challenge of personal conflict within our group. We had mediators from the office, sharing points of view and being like the sounding board of why I feel this way, why I feel that way. And actually someone ended up leaving that meeting and taking a anger management course and came back different.
Wow. Well, I think in a lot of cases, it's interesting that that person took that feedback or
Yeah,
found a way to sort of deal
huge
with it.
kudos to them.
Hell yeah, because that's not easy to do. I mean,
Right.
first of all, I think some people think that just because I'm in a leadership position, I shouldn't have to improve myself or I shouldn't have to take feedback. And I wouldn't say criticisms, I'll also just say feedback.
Yeah,
And a lot of people operate from a place of fear.
right.
And it's really working with people. And we talked, I think, in the first episode of what we were talking about talking and looking at people from compassionate. And
Yeah,
that's really hard to do when somebody's bullying you,
yeah,
is to be compassionate about them. But I would say it's often important to take yourself out of things.
right.
If
Like
you
you
are
and I
being,
both have said, we take things personally, you
yeah,
know, that it's not often about you, it's about that person.
it's about that person. So I've coached people through this, is to take yourself out of it and realize they're in a very different position. And once you do, once you take, you take the heat down a little bit and you remove yourself from the situation, you have a little bit more, um, uh, what is the word? Perspective on it, a
Hmm.
clearer perspective on it. And there are ways that you can teach yourself, hey, that's not me. That's that person. This
Right.
has nothing to do with me. And you can get to a point where you're like, wow, that person's just blowing up again, like,
Hmm.
the Tasmanian devil. That's just what
Well,
they
and like when
do.
I complained about that one leader that I was like, this is not okay. And they were like, that's just who they are. Maybe if I had taken that perspective at that time, I could have not been so emotionally charged by it. But because it was an interaction that he and I were having that we had different points of view, like I took it to me personally. And because this other person that I was expressing to was like, it's just who they are. Maybe have
Yeah,
gotten to that point.
well, and I don't mean to say to accept it. I think sometimes you're just in situations where you love your job, there's going to be no change, right?
Well, and
And
nothing is ever
maybe
going to be 100%.
no, but you want to stay in the job. What I mean is when you step away, you learn to kind of manage your own energy, what's yours, what's not yours,
Hmm.
the stuff that's yours and not yours. I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that, but
I do, but maybe give like a
um
30-second.
okay, so we all operate, from this external people's programmings, people's opinions of us. And in reality, it's their stuff, it's not your stuff. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So if you learn to discern between that, it becomes a lot easier to also build communication strategies on how to deal with them
Hmm.
because you have to get stuff done and you still love your job, and I'm thinking of situations where I've worked where there might be somebody in an adjacent organization to me, right? And I have to work with them or that's an adjacent manager, but I'm not necessarily working for them.
Hmm.
Um, but if you take yourself away from their bad behavior, not excusing it, but realizing, hey, they've got something going on over there, and I still have to get my job done. How do I have a conversation? I've had several situations where I've had to work. Like, have you ever worked on matrix teams and they all actually work in
Oh yeah.
different lines?
Hmm.
And in a sense, you're kind of managing this team, or they're managing you, or the
Right.
work's getting managed by multiple people, and you got to work with that person.
Right. We have to work together. We
And
don't have to like each other.
you don't have to like each other. You don't have to put up with their BS, but you can diffuse how you feel, how it affects you, and also kind of improve how you communicate by taking the emotion out of it.
Hmm.
So you're just communicating about what do you want to communicate about? What do we have to get done? Stick
Hmm.
to that, and then you pull your emotion out.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
whenever you push too much, that other person's going to push back on you.
Right.
So
Be the
again, I want to be
diffuser. Think of
clear.
yourself like have that visual of the bomb diffuser guy in like the whole puffy suit and going in very cautiously to unplug the blue wire.
And then walking away. And if your arms start flailing or if you start sweating and getting all nervous and you lose control of your body, you're going to end up tripping the bomb off. But again, I want to be really clear. This does not mean that you accept bad behavior or abuse or anything like that. I'm talking about situations where
Like rising
people
above it.
rising above it. Um, Another thing of the bad leadership, and I think we talked on the first one about clear directives. And
Hmm.
oftentimes, have you ever worked in a situation where you're just not getting clear directives?
Hmm. Plenty.
And yeah, and so in situations like that, you you're it's where you have to be a good leader
Hmm.
and say, okay, I understand XYZ. And then you almost have to send a quick CY to them and say, is this, what we're supposed to be doing? So you at least get some reflection back.
Hmm.
Um, because I've been in situations like I think I told you about the one first boss VP I had. He didn't know what we did, so we never got any directives. We sort of had to direct ourselves.
Hmm.
um, so you can take it upon yourself, be a good leader, and just try to lay things out.
Right. And I think that's the point that we're making today is even though we encounter these personalities and experiences and outbursts or um, behaviors, there's ways to that you can be the leader from within or the leader from the side and or figure out how you can work in those situations or around those situations to make the best of it rather than from the bomb situation making it explode. Like there's plenty of times where I was like I should have walked away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do, because in the heat of the moment, it's almost like this energetic nucleus that you're dancing in. And it's really hard to pull yourself out of it. So
Hmm.
I think we had some tips too. And if you want me to go through some of them,
Yeah, let's
and
wrap it up.
I don't know that they're comprehensive. So you might have some to add to this.
Okay.
So number one, I think you talked about setting boundaries.
Hmm.
Kudos to you for having frank discussions. So that's number two, have frank discussions. Um, I would say before you do that, remove yourself, calm yourself down, center yourself, get your energy intact, realize that it has more to do with that person, a reflection of that person than you.
Hmm.
Before you have the frank discussion with whoever it is that you need to talk with, or leadership or HR, um, uh, if all else fails, and if the job isn't really, if you're not satisfied in the job as well as you're not satisfied in the company, try to transfer out with grace. You can try to transfer to another department if you do like the company and what you're doing. And then as a last resort, you can find another job and go elsewhere. Don't blow things up. Have a
Yeah.
plan to do it.
I
And
did
then,
that once. I walked out once and I
did
won't
you?
do it again.
No, you have to have a plan. And then if necessary, seek out a voice or a coach or a colleague or a
Hmm.
mentor that's safe because
Yeah.
oftentimes, when you talk to HR, we all know that sometimes when you talk to HR, it's not really the most private place that you can go. So,
Yeah. And that's why I do, and probably you too, why I do what I do now as a coach and a mentor and an advisor, because I've been through the gamut. And so I, if there's anything that I can do to support people to not have to experience those challenging situations that I did by educating people from where I stand, that's my whole goal in what I do.
yeah, yeah. It's too hard to we spend so much time at work.
Mhm.
And I think, Heather and I both feel the same way. And how we work with people is, we want people to have good experiences. We want them to feel whole and of themselves. And you're not going to be perfect every single day of the week, but, um, definitely there are ways that you can cope with things to reduce the stress so you're not in the ER.
Most of the time for me, it's humor and sarcasm. That's what I'm known
Yes.
for. I'm the class clown. I'm the one who says the inappropriate thing at the wrong time, at the right time, but the wrong time.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great humor and sarcasm and exercise, but we definitely don't want you ending up in the
Yeah, no
ER.
more ER trips. No more ER
Yeah,
trips.
so thank you so much.
Thanks for joining
Um,
us.
yeah, stay unfiltered until next time. And oh, write us in. Oh, what's our email address, Heather? Happy.
Unfiltered@gmail.com.
Well, that's easy. So, we'd love to hear from you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode of Mondays Unfiltered. If something today made you laugh, think, cringe, or finally question the workplace norms you've been conditioned to accept, good. That's where change begins. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit subscribe, share the episode with someone who deserves a better Monday, and help us push the movement towards healthier, more human workplaces. And we want to hear your stories, the surprises, the successes, the dysfunction, the burnout, the breakthroughs. Just send them our way. Your experience might shape a future episode. And remember, we can do better, we can be better, and we don't have to tolerate BS just because it feels familiar. Until next week, stay curious, stay courageous, and stay unfiltered.